Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination.
Hey guys, Chef Bart here, and I am again the dude with the food. And what we're going to do today is we're going to make some French onion soup. So I'll have the quantities on in digital format on the picture, and I'll also have it underneath so you can click on that. But what we got here is, this is probably the most important thing, is you have to find yourself some ramekins that are oven safe, or they call them actually onion soup crock pots or whatever. So need some of those. I got some yellow onions. Now it's important to use yellow onions because the sweet onions is going to make the dish too sweet. So use yellow onions. Okay. And then we have some thyme, dried thyme, some minced garlic again, and we're going to have some sugar, some salt, some bay leaves. And there's actually a person named Bailey here, so she knows what this is because I call it bay leaf. Alright, we're going to have some unsalted butter, some flour. We got some sherry, which is basically just a cooking wine, but it tastes good, that's important. Some olive oil, need some salt and pepper as usual, and some chicken stock, which I like to put together with some, this is condensed beef broth. So this will give you the beef flavor, and then you can round it out with chicken stock so it's not so bitter. And now this is a hunk of Gruyere cheese, and it's quite expensive, and I never go small, I always go big, it seems. But this particular hunk is about 60 bucks. And contrary to belief, Gruyere cheese was actually made in Switzerland, and it was named after a town called Gruyere, so it's not French cheese. And one of the main things about Gruyere cheese is it melts rather nicely, so that's going to go over the top of the dish. And then we also have a scale, I'll show you that later, what that's for, and some French baguette bread. You can tell it's a baguette bread because it's thin, doesn't have a big diameter, and we're going to actually slice this and put it on top of the soup and then put the cheese on top of that later. Alright, so I'm going to get started prepping all this stuff, and I'll be back. Hey guys, I just wanted to show you how I slice these onions. I got a Pampered Chef mandolin, and you'll find the blade, that just the slotted one, not the V1, and you can set it on the side for extra thick. And this works really well. Just set the onion in there. It's a lot easier when you're standing, but yeah, I did 5 onions in a couple minutes here. And that's what you'll get. The sections are about 1/8 of an inch thick. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next step. And I'll be back. Okay guys, here's the next step now. I got a Dutch oven that's heated up to medium, and medium high. And I also got the oven set at 400 degrees because I'm going to show you a little trick later on that I found out works. So first thing we're going to do, I'm cooking 5 pounds of this. Generally a normal person would make it with a pound of onion, but I'm making a lot so that I can vacuum seal it and freeze it. So again, the quantities will be on there, but I'm just going to do it for this amount. So we'll add in our olive oil, and we'll add in our butter. Now you want to be careful you don't have this up too high, otherwise the butter will brown and it'll be done. But you want a little tiny bit of color on the butter because it makes it a little more nutty tasting. Okay, this is almost melted now. And we're going to add our sugar. The sugar is going to help for it to caramelize. Okay, so we added the fat into the onions and made sure it was well combined. And now we're going to add salt. Now the sugar is going to help it caramelize, but we're going to add about 2½ teaspoons of salt and the same in black pepper. Okay, and then we're going to make sure this is well mixed. The salt is going to help draw out the water that's in the onion. And it's also going to flavor it, obviously. Okay, so now we're going to put this back into our Dutch oven. Now what we're going to do, we're going to cover it and leave a little bit of a gap, maybe 1/4 inch, so the moisture can escape. We're going to put it in the 400-degree oven that's been preheated for an hour. And I'll be back. Okay, so while that's going in the oven, I'm going to work on my rest of the soup. So I got 6 cans of the condensed beef broth and a 32-ounce container of the chicken stock, which equals 10 cups of liquid in here. And now I'm going to add, again, this is the big portions, add 10 bay leaves, and I'm going to add a heaping tablespoon of garlic, and I'm going to add a tablespoon of thyme. Now I'm going to set this on the oven, and I'm going to let it steep with all these ingredients in there so that it's ready to pour into this onions when it comes out, so it'll infuse all this flavor in. Alright, let me get you caught up now. After an hour and a half in the oven, I took the lid off and let it go another hour. So now you can see there's quite a bit of liquid in there. I want to get rid of that liquid so I can go to the next step, and that's all goodness. So I'm going to pour that in the soup. Now this broth, was simmering with the bay leaf and the garlic and the thyme for about an hour, hour and a half, depending on how strong you want it. Now when I mean simmer, it was steeping like tea. It was barely bubbling. It was just warm, and it imparted all the flavors in there. And then I went ahead and strained it, so that's what we got here right now. So I'm going to strain the onions into this now. And now what I'm going to do is I'll pour it back into the Dutch oven. I'll get it back on camera for you here. This is just going to sit until we need it again. So now we're we're going to take our onions and we're going to pour some flour in there. And the reason I had to get the liquid out is because you know how it goes. If you put flour into hot liquid, all it does is clump. So I'm going to mix this up now and get the onions covered with the flour. And I want to cook this a little bit to get the raw flavor out of the flour. So we're going to let this go about 5 minutes. Plus I'm looking to get a little more color on the onions at this point. This is a labor of love, man. There's nothing, you know, if you want to make this in an hour, it's going to taste like it was made in an hour. And the other thing that I did was, in the broth, I actually, after I put the tablespoon of thyme in there, I realized I think it's a little too much for my liking. And I actually strained it out and reduced it to a teaspoon. So you may want to make that correction, otherwise the thyme will be too strong, or you might like it that way. Okay. So I'm going to wash this, I'm going to stir it, let it go for another few minutes. Okay, so it's been about 3 minutes. I don't think I want to go to full 5 minutes. So now I'm going to add in the sherry. I also turn the heat up. I'm going to crank it to high now. Let this cook down another few minutes to let the alcohol cook out. Oh yeah, babe. This is going to be good. Okay, so while that's cooking, I'm going to take the broth and I'm going to skim some of the fat off of the top. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour this into the soup. I may want to ladle it in so I don't... Actually, I'm going to pour the soup into it. That's better. Naturally, the flour will help thicken it up now. Oh man. So we're going to let this go for about another 20 minutes, and in the meantime, I'm going to show you how I make the croutons for the top. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I reduced the oven to 325, and I'm going to take some of this bread. I bought this yesterday and I let it sit a day, but I want to go a good ½ inch on these. I'm actually going to make some more, but let me just show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to butter both sides, and then I'm going to stick them in the oven and grill them for about 20 minutes, and I'll turn them over after halfway. I get them nice and golden brown to put on top of the soup, and I'll show you that when I'm done. Okay guys, here we go. So let me just bring you up to speed again. Here's our finished product. I let this go about 20 minutes, and it tasted a little sweet, which is good because you could always bring up the salt to counteract it, and that's what you want. A good way to do this is you can bring the salt up until you think it's close, and then take a little bit of it and put it in a little bowl and add some more salt to it, and you'll be able to taste when it's too salty. There's nothing worse than onion soup that's too salty, it's nasty. But then you'll be able to find out where you're at with the too salty versus the soup that you made, and you'll be able to salt it accordingly. And just remember, when you put salt in it, let it go for 3-4 minutes before you taste it, because the flavor is going to intensify. So anyway, enough of that. So here's our croutons. They came out of the oven, and you can actually do this ahead of time. And what I did was, I put it in about the middle of the oven and I set it on broil, and I just broiled on each side for about 5 minutes. So we're going to take our cheese now, and we'll cut the rind off. Actually, it might be better to do it with this now that I got a little bit of a score on there, because this cheese is expensive and I don't want to waste it. Uh-oh. Yeah, this cheese cutter is kind of pops, and then you can press it back together somehow. I don't know. So I'll do it again. Uh-oh. Well, gone. Alright. I always have an audience when I'm doing this, and everybody is just, oh, it's hilarious. Well. Okay. And they know me best for cutting the cheese, so here we go. Okay, well, I was going to cut a nice even 1/4 inch thickness with the stupid cheese cutter, but it broke. So, I'm going to do one. Okay, I'll assemble one and I won't bore you with the rest. So we'll take one of our oven-proof bowls now. Annie, you have to wait till it's done with the cheese on it. That was my dog. She loves to eat the food that I cook. As soon as she sees it going in the bowl, she goes off. Okay. Annie, hang on. Alright. So there's our soup. And what I think I'll do is put a couple croutons in there. Push it down, get some goodness on it. Oh man. Stick that wedge or whatever you call it. Stick the wedge of cheese on it. And I'm going to do that to all of these. I can't even talk now, I want to eat. And then, Annie, you got to wait for the food. Alright, I'll be back when it's done. So here we go, guys. Here's the finished deal. Oh man. Look at that. Let's chop it all up. Man, that is good. A little bit of fat tire to wash it down. Oh yeah. So there you have it. My version of French onion soup. Now remember, it'll be the best you'll ever taste. See you next time.